Hello everyone and welcome to another video of the Sky channel. So this video is going to be about the Surreal Wetlands shooter ants. And we're going to go over them, we're going to go over their skills, and we're going to try and see how they can work together and which third ant would be a nice one to use with them. So let's start with the first one, that is the Red Velvet. It is a shooter melee, which means it goes in the front line. It looks a lot like Black Velvet and it is actually frontline as well, so I think that's not a very good thing for people who invested in the Black Velvet. But given that both of these ants were released so close to each other, I would say that they would probably not replace each other completely. And I guess after we go through their skills, we're gonna find out why. Okay, skill number one, standard and straightforward, nothing changed here. Skill number 6, let's go to that as well. It is pretty standard. I don't see any major differences. There's the attack, defense, damage, and health, and of course the normal attack damage, completely standard, and of course in line with the latest pay to win ants. Then if you look at the attack and defense, 144%, that is also in line with the latest pay to win ants that have come out, like the Black Velvet, 144. It is of course a step up from the Saharan Silver Ant and other jungle ants, which was 120. Skill number 7, health of 54% for all squads in its troop, of course, as long as they're shooters. Again, this is in line with the latest pay to win ants that have come out. And we're going to go to the example of Black Velvet. Exactly the same thing. Okay, that covers the standard skills. Let's go to their special skills. Starting with skill number 2. I'm going to talk about the max level effect first. During the battle, increases the damage of its squad by 20%. When its squad is in the front line, increase the skill effect to 40% and additionally grants 15% dodge rate. So if it's not in the front line, you're increasing its damage by 20%. But if it is in the front line, the damage increase goes up to 40%, which is pretty cool. And you also get a 15% dodge rate, which you would really need if you're in the front line, as that reduces the amount of times you actually get hit. Not bad, and I'm assuming most people are going to have it in the front line anyway, so 40% extra damage and 15% dodge rate is nice to have. If you only have it at 0 star, it's still not bad at all. 15% extra damage or 30% if it's in the front line, and there's that 15% dodge rate. That's standard. Even if it's at 0 star, you still get the 15% dodge. Skill number 5. After its squad releases a normal attack, has a 60% chance to deal 450% damage to the target and converts 20% of that into your power. So that gives me a little bit of the wise berserker vibes, right? After a normal attack, you have a 60% chance, which was also wise berserker, 60%. The damage is fairly high, 450% damage to the target, which probably suggests it's the same target of the normal attack, which means it'll be the front line. And then you also get 20% of that damage back as healing, which is pretty cool. So that's a really nice skill, and I'm assuming that does show that it works well with ants that increase the number of normal attacks, for example the Weaver ant. But of course, as you'll soon see, the other Surreal Wetland shooter ant does increase the number of normal attacks as well. If you have it at less than 5 star, we're talking same 60% chance but 400% damage instead of 450, which isn't a huge drop, and the healing rate remains the same. And then finally, skill number 8 in the first, third, fifth, and seventh rounds deals 400% damage to 2 random enemy squads, so that's 800 in total, and reduces their skill damage by 15%, which is stackable and lasts until the end of battle. So the good thing is that it does it in the first round as well. So if you do have a higher combat speed than the enemy, you are guaranteed to attack 2 of the enemy squads and reduce their skill damage by 15%, which is going to be a permanent debuff on these 2 enemies. And hopefully you hit the backline, because that's the one which ends up doing the most damage. So this can be a very effective skill. The damage rate is fairly high as well. So that's 400% damage to 2 squads. 800 in total. Of course, that's the 8-star effect. If you do not have it at 8-star, you still do an amazing 350% damage to 2 squads. That's 700% in total, and you're reducing their skill damage by 10%, also stackable until the end of battle. So with a higher combat speed, I can totally see this as a really cool skill, right? You do a ton of damage right in the beginning, and you permanently reduce their skill damage, making them much weaker. And then it's also stackable until the end of battle. So by the third round, you can do it again, and you can further decrease their skill damage by another 15% if you have it at 8-star, or 10% if you have it at 0-star. So theoretically, by the third round, you could have reduced their skill damage by 30%, while also having done a ton of damage to them as well. So overall, Red Velvet seems to be really cool, right? Skill number 2, increasing its damage by up to 40%, which is amazing, and also getting dodge, which allows it to live a little bit longer. Skill number 5 deals a fairly high amount of damage to the enemy and actually heals itself based on 20% of the damage that it dealt. And the interesting thing is that if you do normal attacks twice in a round, you can release this potentially twice in the round as well. And then skill number 8 is really cool because it does a ton of damage to the enemy and actually significantly debuffs the enemy's skill damage, and it's stackable until the end of battle. And the cool thing is, it's a guaranteed hit. There's no percentage chance written here, so it's gonna hit for sure. So especially if you have a high combat speed, it's really cool because even before the enemy gets a chance to hit you, you've already reduced their skill damage by a fairly high amount. So of course, really strong. But now let's take a look at the second shooter ant and see how that works with the Red Velvet. Alright, the Sly Hunter. Let's go to the basic skills, fairly similar in skill number 1, skill 3, skill 4, also the same. Skill 7 is giving defense of 120% to all shoot ants in the squad. Again, in line with the latest pay to win ants. Skill 6, also fairly similar, giving attack, defense, damage, and health. And of course, that normal attack damage as well. So let's go to the special skills. Skill number 2. During the battle has a 60% chance each round to grant our frontline squads normal attack times +1 and normal attack damage +35. Right? So this is exactly what you needed with your Red Velvet, because its skill actually releases after a normal attack. So you can already see the synergy with the Sly Hunter being made over here. But that's not it. Meanwhile, our backline squad immediately deals 260% damage to 2 random enemy squads. So not only is it giving what the frontline really needs if you're using the Red Velvet, an extra normal attack, so you deal a bunch of normal attack damage, it's also increasing the normal attack damage, and if you're using the Red Velvet, it does allow it to release its skill 5 again and deal a bunch of damage and get some healing as well, which is really cool. But then it also allows the backline to do a bunch of damage, 260% to 2 random enemy squads. That's 520% damage in total. Now, just by looking at this, I can see that if you have Saharan Silver Ant at the back, right? So Saharan Silver Ant has the ability of increasing its damage based on how far it is from the enemy. So I can see it working really well with this because it's not going to be 260. It's going to be 260 with that buff of extra skill damage because of it being further away from the enemy. Now, if you have it at 0-star, the chance of releasing the skill goes down to 50% instead of 60%, but the rest of the numbers remain the same. Skill number 5, 60% chance to deal 410% damage to 2 random enemy squads. That's 820% damage in total, which is really cool. And then it also removes a negative status from its squad and 1 random friendly squad. So the damage rate is fairly high, up to 820% damage in 1 hit, which is really cool. 60% chance is nice as well for such a high damage, but it also removes negative effects from itself and another one of your squads, which is really cool. If you have it at 0-star, the chance goes down to 50% and the damage goes down to 360% to 2 enemy squads, meaning a total of 720% damage. Finally, skill number 8. Starting from the second round, all of our squad's first damage dealt in each round increases by 50%. That's a really cool increase in damage, and it also triggers a healing effect after dealing that damage with a healing ratio of 160%. So a huge increase in the first damage that each squad does, 50% is really high, and it also gives additional healing. Now the fact that it's starting from the second round means that the Red Velvet doesn't really get it in the first hit that it does, right, in the round one, when it deals a ton of damage to the enemy and also reduces their skill damage. But either way, this is really cool because it does increase your damage by a lot. And by the third round, Red Velvet releases that skill again. And if it's in the first row, it already has a damage buff. Now it has this additional damage buff. Red Velvet gets healing due to skill number 5, the one that actually deals damage after a normal attack and then also heals itself, while you get some extra healing here. So I can see a lot of synergy between both Red Velvet and the Sly Hunter, and I can probably see that these both are meant to be used together. Sly Hunter is a really nice support ant. By giving an extra normal attack to the front line and normal attack damage, especially if you're using Red Velvet, this can be extremely helpful because Red Velvet has skill 5, which does damage based on the number of normal attacks that it releases. So this can actually enhance its damage dealing potential and also enhance its healing abilities because skill 5 also gives Red Velvet healing abilities. At the same time, this skill also gives the backline extra damage that it can do, and I can see that using it with Saharan Silver Ant could potentially lead to the damage being fairly higher than what's mentioned over here. Skill number 5, dealing a bunch of damage to enemies and also removing negative effects from itself and a friendly squad, which is always helpful. And then skill 8, increasing the first damage of all of the squads in the unit by 50%, meaning that the first damage that you do is going to be really high, and then also giving extra healing to allow your ants to live longer. I guess I've mentioned this already, but it is fairly obvious that if you have a frontline ant and a support ant, which probably goes in the middle, you do need a damage dealer for the back. Now, Saharan Silver Ant is one of the best damage dealers out there right now anyway, so the Sly Hunter's ability of increasing the first damage that all of your squads release seems to be working well with the Saharan Silver Ant because it does so much damage anyway. An extra 50% for the first skill that it releases would be very helpful. What makes Saharan so cool is skill number 8, where it actually has a high chance of increasing the positional distance of its squad by 1, and when dealing damage, the damage is increased by 10% if you have it at 8 star for every 1 range between its squad and the target enemy squad. And since Saharan is going to be in row 3, it can technically go into row 4 due to skill number 8, which doesn't really exist, but it does exist for the damage calculations, which means that row 3, 10%, row 2, 20%, row 1, 30%, 40, 50, 60. Which essentially means that it can get an extra 60% damage buff if it's attacking the backline of the enemy squad. Huge amount of damage, and with the Sly Hunter, it can do even more damage to the enemy squads. Of course, if you don't have a Saharan Silver Ant, you could use a different damage dealing ant for the backline because you do need one of those heavy hitters that you want to place at the back so you can do a lot of damage to the enemy because Red Velvet is going to be in row 1 and your Sly Hunter is most likely going to be a row 2 ant as it is a support. Let's see how the ants turn out to be when we actually receive them in the Surreal Wetland and test them out. I think that we'll start seeing a bunch of Red Velvet, Sly Hunters, and Saharan Silver Ant units out there, but it's also possible that they release a new paired ant that might work very well with the new Surreal Wetland ants, or potentially even replace one of the Surreal Wetland ants, but I see that as a lower probability of happening because I expect the Surreal Wetland ants to remain part of the meta for at least some time before they actually become obsolete. And since I still have you here, I do want you to know that you can get between 10 to 35% bonus on in-game purchases in the Ants Underground Kingdom. The steps are quite simple. All you need to do is follow the video that I'm linking to this video, and you can also click that button that's going to appear at the top right of your screen to go to that video. The latest promo code is going to be in the name of that video, so you will know which promo code to use to get these amazing bonuses. And as the promo code changes, I'll update the title of that video. A lot of other people are taking advantage of this. Feel free to check it out. If you have any questions, you can join our Discord and I can guide you through the process as well. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the other Surreal Wetland Ant videos. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the notifications, and join our Discord because I will be posting them there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.